Okay, aloha, America. Welcome to our show. For some reason, we are still unable to connect with RBN. There we go. Okay, and I'm not getting any sound. There.
Hey, you're on air, Michael.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Fine. Aloha. Welcome to our show. Happy Monday. And we've had once again major technical mess ups here at RBN, which is why RBN needs your support to get some new equipment in there. So, anyway, welcome to our show today. It's Monday, December 10th, 2018. We have got a lot of stuff to talk about today. The phone lines are open, 800 313 9443. And Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations. And I apologize. It always throws me when we have these glitches at the start of the show and we're late getting on the air. Anyway, today is the anniversary of the day that investigative journalist Gary Webb committed suicide, supposedly by shooting himself in the head twice. And Gary Webb, if you will recall, is the guy who wrote this series of news articles called Dark Alliance for the San Jose Mercury News. It just made waves all across the country because it put together all the pieces of what was going on with CIA-backed drug smuggling into the country, the reason we had a crack cocaine epidemic in the black neighborhoods, the smuggling out of the country of money and guns to support the Nicaraguan Contras. And, of course, the corporate media that's owned and controlled by the CIA, like the New York Slimes, the Washington Compost, and the LA Times, basically just smeared him and said, this is ridiculous. How dare you could say anything like that about our government. Of course, Webb was eventually vindicated, but not before his career and life was destroyed. And then, of course, he was suicided. All right, let's go over to France here because, oh boy, what a mess that is over there. Now, early today, Emmanuel Macron finally emerged from hiding, as it were, and he gave a very long speech and said, at least to my perception, an infinite deal of nothing. And he didn't even really say it all that well. He was just kind of meandering around back and forth about the need for unity and how the violence isn't going to stop anything and how, yes, we've all got to work together. And the only things that he said that were concrete was that he's going to try to lower taxes. He's going to try to raise the minimum wage. But that's about as far as it got. And then he went on with the rest of the speech talking about the importance of dealing with climate change and, adapting to the immigration. In other words, hot button issues with the French protesters, the Yellow Vests. Now, in the end, they're trying to say this is all about the carbon tax, but it isn't, because the Yellow Vest protesters have now started decorating the back of their vests with various symbols over what they are there for. And there's all kinds of different agendas. There's anti-EU sentiment there. There's anti-New World Order sentiment there, anti-immigrant. And so I don't think Macron's speech is really going to accomplish much of anything. In fact, quite the contrary. I think it's going to anger the French people that he comes across as not taking them seriously. There were a lot of apologies, and yes, we feel really, really bad, but it came across as weak. It came across as really weak and ineffective. Now, getting on back to the motivations for what's going on, there was one man who was interviewed on Euronews who said basically, at the end, I asked myself why I work just to survive. And that is a sentiment that we can see in many of the Western countries, including right here in the United States of America, where people are working as hard as they can just to stay alive. So, people are angry. Now, if in fact Macron does carry through with some of his promises, and we know the carbon tax is already gone, it is sending a message. And Russia Today came out with a story about how the Yellow Vest movement is striking a victory for working people across the European Union. Because we have seen it all over the EU and here in the United States of America, corporate leadership and government has no respect for working people. They have no respect for those who know how to manufacture because they offshore all of that. And these protests, by the way, are everywhere. It wasn't just Paris. It was all over France. It's taking place in Belgium, the Netherlands. Apparently, there was even a small Yellow Vest sympathy protest up in Canada. So this thing is really starting to spread. And it is important to keep in mind that these riots in France, these protests in France, are not just about taxes. The problems are far, far deeper than taxes. The open borders, being lied to all the time, the endless wars, the high cost of living, and it's always going up. So the people are angry. In fact, in an economic sense, it's very much the same circumstances that led to the original French Revolution. Back in, I think it was 1793 is when it really got underway. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our Honor affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Now, here's what's really interesting. Last week, it was reported that the military were coming on in to try and keep control. There were also reports that the police union was recommending to French police to join with the protesters, and there was word that some of the French military might do so as well. So the army that came into Paris was flying the flags and insignia of the European Union Army. And they may have been sent in over concerns the French military might change sides and join with the protesters. And it tells us that despite all the talk back and forth, there is now a unified European Union army, at least to some extent, enough to where they had manpower and forces to go into France here. Almost 1,000 people have been arrested during these last protests. And what's going on here basically is the government of France is beating its own citizens bloody for the crime of protesting against the globalists. And the globalists are very nervous. They're stung by this. They apparently thought their plans were working just fine and nobody was noticing what they were doing. So this is the wake-up call. It isn't working. The people of planet Earth do not want to be one planet, one bank, one slab of cement. They want to be their own little countries taking care of themselves. So France could be the first domino to fall. Oh, and by the way, another icon I saw on the back of a yellow vest is France out of the EU. So that's another issue they're protesting about here. Now, the Russian media is covering the Yellow Vest protests, certainly far more than we're seeing the American media do. And so now France is saying, there may have been Russian interference. See, that's the strategy. We're going to blame Russia for this now. No. The taxes aren't too high. Actually, France has the highest taxes of any Western country. And the French are getting very, very little back for it. And it's not the carbon tax, and it's not the taxes, and it's not the high cost of living and the low wages and salaries. It's the Russians. Those Russians, they got into Twitter, and they just fanned up those French people to rise up against their government. I got an email from somebody else saying, oh, this is just another Soros manufactured color revolution. I don't think so. This one feels very, very real to me. But apparently Ukraine's SBU, the British media, and one of the U.S. think tanks, the Alliance for Securing Democracy, is all out there saying, oh yes, Russia's behind all of this. Macron is great. He's the savior of Europe, and he's the darling of the globalists. This all has to be that evil Vladimir Putin. Oh, my goodness. So, all right. As if things weren't bad enough, Ukraine has announced it will send more naval ships through the Kerch Strait. And from the way they're announcing it, it looks like they're intending to simply drive on through again without requesting permission from Russia or any of the other formal procedures. Now, there's nothing military about Russia wanting to know what ships are in the strait, because if you go over to that strait in Google Earth, in terms of the land, it looks like there's really a lot of room. But if you look at the water part, the light water versus the dark water, it's very obvious there's only a very narrow dredged channel. So it needs a little bit of traffic management. But apparently Ukraine is going to provoke Russia once again by sending more ships in there. So this thing is really getting out of control here. And of course, this is NATO aggression wanting the Russian waters. And predictably, NATO is saying, well, they need to expand even further east. And the U.S. Army War College Stephen Blank, former professor, is saying it's now time for the United States to lease Ukrainian ports in the Sea of Azov and patrol the sea with United States warships, plural. So that's what's going on here. This is a provocation. Blame Russia. Oh, we just have to go into the Sea of Azov. We have to patrol it. We have to have American warships in there. And we know what's going to happen next. They're going to try and grab Crimea back. So Moscow has deployed to the Kerch Strait. They have deployed S-400 batteries, modernized S-300s, anti-ship ball missile systems, electronic warfare equipment, not to mention Russian assets and personnel arrayed in the military districts abutting Ukraine. I do not see Russia standing down to another Kerch incursion. And I do not see Russia being willing to surrender the Sea of Azov to U.S. control, which is exactly what they're talking about. When they're talking about U.S. warships patrolling the Sea of Azov, it means we're now in charge, we're in control of this body of water, and we're pushing up even closer and closer to Russia's borders because we've got to counter that Russian aggression here. Meanwhile, the Trump administration continues to arm and train Ukrainian forces for war, and this is all based on the Ukraine Freedom Support Act of 2014 that authorized U.S. lethal and non-lethal aid to Kiev. And the U.S. and other NATO countries are basically sending in heavy and other weapons along with training to use them. The only external threats the regime faces are invented ones. No real ones exist. They're trying to manufacture a war out of thin air because, after all, war is good for the war business. And I'm sure that all of these politicians and officials' stock portfolios are already loaded up with General Dynamics and Electric Boat and Boeing and Lockheed Martin and all the rest of that, all of the war stocks, as it were. Now, Kiev is also trying to provoke Russia by having a firing line training. And they had these live fire drills with the Strela 10 surface-to-air missile systems near the Donbass line of contact. Now, at the end of 2015, the Minsk Agreement was signed, which requires the withdrawal of all heavy armaments at the same distance on both sides in order to create a 50-kilometer safety zone for artillery and tanks of more than 100 millimeters caliber. Well, apparently, Kiev has just decided the Minsk Accord is no more, and they're pushing on up into there. Meanwhile, the media is full of all these claims of satellite photos are showing, Russian tanks massing on the border. And we've been hearing that one ever since the coup d'etat in Ukraine. And there's a lot of very impressive looking satellite photos of what look like military installations and tanks, and no way to confirm they are located where the media says they're located. There isn't. If they really had confidence in this data, they'd give us the exact latitude, longitude, and we could go on in to Google Earth and verify, yes, we're looking at the same spot. Down in Syria, last November 24th, the U.S.-supported terrorists fired Western-supplied shells containing toxic chlorine at El Khaladia, Al-Nil, and Jamiat al-Zahra Aleppo City neighborhoods. Now, unless it's treated quickly, toxic chlorine inhalation can cause asphyxiation and severe respiratory problems, and according to area hospitals, 107 civilians were admitted suffering from what was believed to be chlorine gas inhalation. Now, the U.S., Great Britain, France, Israel, the Saudis, and Turkey are involved directly or indirectly in delivering these chemical weapons to these jihadists in Syria. So Russia is saying they have irrefutable evidence of the use of these chemical munitions used on November 24th. Of course, what's coming on out is the Western press is saying, oh, no. This was Syria. This was Assad and Russia. They did this. Really? Why? Why would they do it? What motive would they have? Well, they did it to make us look bad. Sometimes the propaganda gets downright silly. I'm wondering if somewhere there's this room with a bunch of these highly paid propagandists, and they've got a dartboard, and they're writing this propaganda using the dartboard saying, okay, Assad gassed his people with pizza sauce. No, we can't go with that one. It's amazing. Over in Yemen, as you know, there was a recent attempt by the U.S. Congress to pass a bill to pull the United States out of that war in Yemen, and it went down to defeat. And the White House and the State Department are reaffirming the U.S. commitment to its lead military role in executing the Saudi coalition war on Yemen. This despite mounting civilian deaths numbering tens of thousands, devastating famine, and basically the derision of the entire world over the U.S. role in what the United Nations has dubbed the world's worst humanitarian crisis. So in comments on Sunday, a top State Department official quoted by Reuters said a U.S. pullout from the Saudi coalition would send a wrong message. Okay. Would somebody tell me the message we are sending right now by doing this? Anyway, somebody has over at Washington, no, sorry, back up here. The full transcript of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi's murder has been released and indicates that while he was being killed and dismembered, somebody was on the phone, apparently to Riyadh, just describing what was going on. And apparently, one man identified as Maher Abdulaziz Mutreb, who's a former Saudi diplomat and an intelligence official, made 3 phone calls to somebody who was a superior. Tell yours the thing is done. It's done, Mutreb allegedly said as Khashoggi drew his last breath. So, apparently, Jared Kushner has been advising Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman on how to weather the Khashoggi slaying and its aftermath. Just a little friendly advice. This was reported by the New York Times. We're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And checking the email, I got a couple about the yellow vests. Mike, I am now living in Hungary. This is most definitely about globalism and the immigrants, not just about taxes. And I got another one. Apparently, there was a very, very, very tiny sympathy protest in Missoula, Montana. So this is starting to catch the public imagination. Turning on down to Israel, the IDF is now warning the Lebanese people to leave homes covering the Hezbollah attack tunnels, which they suspect are there. So much for Israel's promise they were going to be operating only on Israel's side of the border. Meanwhile, Lebanon is strengthening its troop presence on the border with Israel. So that's going to fan up, apparently. Hezbollah's second in command came out with a statement, and it may be true, but I wish he'd kept it to himself because it's not helping. He said there is not a single point in the occupied territories out of reach of Hezbollah's missiles. This came from Deputy Secretary General Sheikh Naim Qassam. That's Hezbollah's second in command. Israel is turning its attention to Operation Northern Shield, which appears to be both about Syria and Lebanon. And Netanyahu is saying we need to put our focus there, but there could still be another military campaign in Gaza. Just wants to fight everybody. Now, there's a little bit of a kerfuffle going on between Israel and the United States, and it involves some used, if you will, F-16s, $500 million worth of them, which Israel wants to sell to Croatia. And there are 2 points where the United States is, well, there's one point where the United States is upset and one point where you ought to be upset. Where the United States is upset is that Israel has added advanced Israeli-made electronic systems to these F-16s as part of efforts to get Croatia to buy the planes, and the United States is not necessarily happy that Croatia will have access to this technology. The other issue that you should be angry about is that Israel didn't buy these planes from the United States. You paid them. You paid for them. They were considered part of U.S. foreign aid to Israel. The United States, you the taxpayer, gave the planes to Israel, and now that they don't want them anymore, they're going to turn around and sell them off at a huge profit. Okay, we're going to go to the phones here. We've got Robert in Northern California. Aloha, Robert. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. As always, I hope you and Claire are doing well.
We are.
And I guess the biggest thing on my mind. Good, sir. I'm glad to hear she's doing better. I assume.
Yes.
Oh, good. I've got 2 big things on my mind today. You've been hopping all over the board, and I know you would like us callers to be able to stay on track with what you're currently talking about, but sometimes we sit on hold for 20 minutes, so it's actually kind of hard. I'm not going to lie to you. But I was going to go back, if you don't mind.
That statement. I try and get to the phone calls as quickly as they come on in. So I don't know.
Well, for the last today, for example, for the last 20 minutes, I was trying to call in, and it would seem that somebody was on the coffee break over there in the control room, and I don't blame them for it. They are so busy. So don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming anybody, but it so happened that I was trying to get on the phone back when you were talking about the Kerch Strait. I happen to be a mariner, and I was just looking over the charts of that area as you were talking about it. And did you know that if you were to park 2 oil tankers end to end in the Kerch Strait, you'd be able to all but block it off?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was just kind of something that I was looking at. It wasn't the reason that I was calling, but I thought I'd mention it. No, the biggest thing I'm calling about, well, it's this foreign aid. I mean, why are the... All right. You already know where I'm going with this. Why are we funding all of these countries that are doing absolutely nothing for us? Why are we wasting all of this money that we could otherwise be using in our own budget? And on top of that, why don't we have any of these congressional people or these Senate people or these government employees actually doing anything that benefits people? When are we going to stand up and do something about this?
Well, I don't know. I'm about ready to go out and buy a yellow vest myself, to be very honest. And
oh gosh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to laugh. I just agree with you so well. I couldn't help but kick on. Go ahead.
I say funny things, trying to keep things a little bit light here. But the U.S. basically, it's called foreign aid, but it's really basically bribing foreign government officials to implement U.S. policy around the world, because that's less expensive than just trying to conquer everything militarily. As far as our government not really paying attention to the American people, I've mentioned before, this has become a major problem. And every single day we see it on the corporate media. They are so busy fighting amongst themselves. They're just letting the nation slide downhill. Anyway, Robert, we got to take another break for commercials here. Stay on the line. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. That toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $400? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
On the 5th day of global warming, Al Gore gave to me 5 dropping bars, $4 gas, 3 felt automakers, 2 melting ice caps, and a fear-mongering documentary.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're talking with Robert in Northern California, and we're talking about the situation in the Middle East and the situation in Crimea. And Robert, did you have something else you wanted to share with us?
Well, yes, sir. It's not nearly as bad that we have all this foreign funding going on with all these third world countries that are really not having our best interest in mind. But when I look at the bigger picture, I see what we have here in our own domestic country. We've got so many problems right now, and I don't even know how to begin to deal with them. I'm just looking at everything. I'm glad that I had some time over the commercial to think about it. Oh, and by the way, if I could help just giving out a shameless plug here in your benefit, that Front Sight Academy, guys, listeners, you guys don't realize what a beautiful benefit that is. They are offering you guys such a deal right now. You really, really should take care of that. If there's any chance that you can make it to Las Vegas, even like 3 times a year, believe me, folks, this is so worth it. And so I want to thank Front Sight for offering you guys that opportunity. And, back to the farm here, I'm just looking at everything that's going on here domestically, and I'm starting to wonder if, Mike, for example, you're always talking about the importance of preparations, right? Food,
Yes.
water, that sort of thing, right?
Yes.
Well, don't you think maybe it's just a good idea that each one of us put back that $17 for a yellow vest just in case? I'm not saying it's going to come to it. I hope it doesn't. But I'm starting to get serious about this. I'm starting to really look over every news site that I have the opportunity to be able to visit. And I've got full internet. I mean, I can look at Breitbart or WorldNet Daily or Blacklisted News or the Gateway Pundit or, I mean, insert liberal term here. And don't get me wrong, I also check CNN, CBS, all those mainstream media sources to make sure that I've got a very well-rounded view of what is being told to the American public right now. I'm starting to realize that we don't have a whole lot of time left for us to either stand up or get in line, because we're either going to accept our slave masters or we're going to try to remind them that it is the people that control this country. We're getting to a fine line, my brother. And
Well,
I would
as
love
you-
nothing
as you
more than
know-
a peaceful revolution.
Well, a peaceful revolution is obviously what we desire here, but as Robert and John Kennedy used to say, when peaceful revolution becomes impossible, violent revolution becomes inevitable. I personally would like to avoid that. It's bad for tourism. It's rough on the landscaping. I am still of the theory that our country, our government, is in the process of tearing itself apart. We're starting to see some major indicators of an impending economic downturn. I'll use the gentle word. But again, the big complaint I have right now, looking at what's going on here on the corporate media, where our members of Congress, they're spending all their time just fighting each other and screaming at each other, and they don't have time left over to actually do the job of taking care of the needs of their constituents. Of course, in a nation with such a crooked voting system, they don't have a reason to do so as long as they're taking care of the needs of the people who write those really big checks to them.
Well, Mike, did you notice that I'm calling from Northern California?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you happen to probably also realize the fact that in our Southern California districts this year, we watched such a blatant piece of voter fraud that I don't even understand why my fellow Californians aren't getting up off their couches. This really floors me. I'm sitting here and I'm just, well, yeah, I'm floored.
Well, see,
I can't believe people aren't standing up to this.
Well, see, here's the problem.
Doesn't anybody realize what's going on? Are they all gargling mercury or something?
Well, again, getting on back to what happened in Southern California, technically it wasn't fraud because the California legislature actually passed a law saying that ballot harvesting is now legal in California. It's pretty much illegal in the rest
Even
of
though
the
it's
country.
illegal in 4 other states.
Say again?
Yeah, in at least 4 other states, it's considered highly illegal.
Yes. And that's
Oh,
also
yeah.
coming into this contested election over in the 9th District. I'm blanking on exactly where that is, but they're screaming, "Oh, you're ballot harvesting. That's bad. That's bad." But in California, it's good because it would. But putting the fine details aside, I'm seeing a government that has just become overrun with these very childish, very greedy, very arrogant people who are completely out of touch with the ordinary population. And
Well,
that
I
is-
agree with you,
that's
Mike.
a recipe for disaster.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I agree with you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was hoping that maybe you and I could just take one last 30-second spiel here to take a 30,000-foot perspective of this, take a look at the big picture. And it really doesn't matter in fine detail whether we're funding foreign governments right now or whether we're allowing these Democrats to ballot harvest or anything like that. What really matters right now is that we have a whole big base of constitutionally minded Republicans that are not standing up and doing anything about it. What can we do about it? Seriously, I'm begging you for a good answer here, because we really need to be able to motivate ourselves in a way that's going to be able to conquer this problem. If you love your country, if you have any respect for the republic by which we were representatively based upon, then we really need folks like you that actually have a voice to tell us all out here how we're supposed to respond to this, because there's no William Wallace out here leading us. There's nobody ready to get themselves disemboweled by the Queen to make sure that we have our rights. And we need some direction. We really do.
William Wallace was disemboweled by a king, Edward the Longshanks.
You're right. I'm sorry. It wasn't a queen. You're right. You're right. Okay.
Again,
let's not
and I'm
hash
going
the
to say
details,
this
but
again.
you're right.
I do
You're
not
absolutely
want to
right.
see an armed rebellion or a civil war in the streets of America. And I know I get a lot of emails from people saying, no, it has to be done. We have to do it now. I understand how you feel that way, and it may happen, and I won't be able to stop it. Okay.
No, I'm on your side. I'm on your side. Let's not confuse this. I don't want violence. I'm hoping for a different solution, and I'm wondering if there's any reasonable advice that good radio heads like yourself, who really haven't established a basis in truth. I mean, you are one of the people, Mr. Rivero, who I can rely on completely to never lie to me. You may never have all of the details on something, but you're always willing to accept that and explain what you do have. And I've never been steered wrong by you. So I'm really begging you, as one of these radio speakers, to kind of give something out to all of us out here. I mean, I'm sure that even Dustin in New Jersey would agree with me on this perspective, that we all need to really start developing a legitimate group response. None of us as individuals are going to be acting out in such a way that's going to create any kind of positive change in this country. But if we can all start reacting as a group towards a common objective in a peaceful way, then we may have a chance. And what we really need is for particular folks like yourself, whom I've got a lot of respect for, to start helping to lead us in that direction. And I understand that that's a dangerous path for you to take. But
well, at my age, I'm not
brother.
that worried about that sort of thing anymore. I am worried about a lot of other people getting hurt.
Good. Then let's go.
Okay.
Let's do this.
Okay, Robert, I'm going to disappoint you here a little bit because my advice all along has been to just, we're seeing clear signs of a government tearing itself apart and an economy on the edge of imploding. And I think we ought to just sit on back, get some pretzels, and just let it happen, and not protect these people from their own stupidity. That being said, obviously,
I'm afraid, Mike, but I've got to disagree with you.
Robert, got a bad habit of cutting me
off.
Ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Obviously, we have to be prepared for social disruptions, economic disruptions. Meanwhile, the best thing we can all do is to try and get to those people who are still on the red pill, who are still plugged into corporate TV media, and it's a dwindling minority. And we need to gently start educating them. I'm sure that probably most people, even if they don't know the details, they know something has gone horribly wrong with this country. And we all need to be there to say, yeah, it's been happening for a while, and these are the problems we're dealing with. Don't overwhelm them. Don't throw a lot of stuff at them, or their defense mechanisms are going to kick in. In fact, each one time you meet somebody, just have one topic to talk about. The fact, like we were lied to about Saddam's nuclear weapons, or the fact that our election system is almost designed to facilitate election fraud. And just we are in fact winning. I mean, there was that story that we had last week where somebody did a survey of high school students, and only half of them think that corporate media is trustworthy. And that means even
I know. We spoke about that on the phone last week.
Basically, what that tells us...
I was here for that. Believe me, I was listening to the show.
As I was about to say, what that tells us is that despite all their millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that they've got, corporate media is losing the war for the minds of America. That's why they're hitting the panic button, and they're trying to get Google and Twitter and Facebook to try and shut us all down. But we've basically entered the stage of what's called a pull market, where we're pulling people in directly. They're not finding us through the search engines anymore. They already know that we're here.
Okay. No, I agree with you in a lot of respects. Do I have 20 seconds in which that I can respond before I wish you a beautiful day, sir?
You got 20 seconds. Go for it.
Yes, sir. I certainly believe that we all actually need to step up our game a little bit more, and we need to realize that if we watch this country implode, we're not going to have another option for the everything this country was built on. There is no land left. This entire planet has been conquered. And if we don't stand up for everything that America represents right now, we're going to lose it, guys. Let's do everything as peacefully as we can, but let's not lose this, please.
Well, we're going to.
That's my 20 seconds, sir. And I really wish you and your best. I mean, look, you and Claire, you provide an invaluable service, and I appreciate every day that I'm able to listen to you guys. Don't ever, ever distract yourself from that fact. Don't ever take any of my complaints or my I don't know, I guess my debates as any indication that you guys are not doing a wonderful job, because I so believe in what you guys are doing. Thank you so much for what you're doing. But the reality of it is, if we don't stand up for our country, we're going to lose it.
Okay, well, basically what's going on is our country, at least the government and the banking system, they're going to go away. Nobody can stop it. They're already resorting to desperation measures trying to hold it all together. And what happens after that's over is we build a new nation right here on top of this one. And if you go to any place where there's been a lot of history, you'll see, that there's ancient city built on ancient city built on ancient city, and then the modern cities are built on top of that. So it's not like we need to have new empty room to go to. We just stay right here and we rebuild our nation. We put the roads back together, the rails and the tunnels. Anyway, Robert, got to let you go. Got another caller waiting on the line, and have a Merry Christmas. And we're going to switch over to Mark in Montana. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Howdy, Michael. I wanted to talk about revolution for people that are desiring it. One of the guys that I got a degree in history, even though I'm just a dumb oil field worker. One of the guys that I admire and hate out of history was a guy by the name of Otto von Bismarck.
Yes.
Now, Bismarck lived in times that were real similar to what we have now. We had a confederation of German states that were warring amongst themselves, different forms of government, and all these 200 or 300 different little states and municipalities. And Otto von Bismarck, through hook or crook, actually combined these folks together, created the German Diet, which was the German confederation and union and Senate and Reichstag, whatever you want to call it. And he had a saying, and it's something that people need to take to heart. He used to say that when the pot boils, the scum floats to the surface. Now, you need to apply that to revolution. When there's turmoil, the scummy idiots in society are the ones that come to the top. And he was referring specifically to politicians. I had the misfortune of being in a place where there was a revolution going on at one time. I believe there was about 1 million people that hacked each other to death with machetes. And it was ethnic violence, but it was other stuff too. I had a friend of mine that worked in Chad when that all fell apart up there. They were drilling for oil, and he told me of the horror stories that went on in Chad. And people that desire this don't understand. It's not the tough oil field, iron-eating guys that go down. It's the weak in society that are the ones that are the victims. It's the elderly, it's the young, it's the people that can't, the stupid, I hate to say that, but the dumb.
Yep.
They're the ones that are the victims when there's a revolution. Yep. So people need to think about that. Now, I'm not necessarily saying we don't need revolution, but why I'm saying before somebody decides to do something really, really stupid, they need to think about that, because you ain't going to have air conditioning, you're not going to have heating, and you're not going to have running water for a while. And I like all those things, and I like a warm place to go to the bathroom.
Okay, well, two responses to that. First of all, overall, I would agree with Otto von Bismarck that in times of turmoil, the opportunists and the politicians try and take advantage of that. I don't think that applied all that much to our own revolution, but it certainly did to the French Revolution, because when the revolution started, the opportunists got on in there, and that resulted in a second revolution and another one after that. I think all told, what we call as the French Revolution was actually 8 in rapid succession from 1793 through 1808, and the leaders who rose to power during those first revolutions got their trips to the guillotine on the later revolutions, until finally they'd run out of the scummy people and France became a republic.
I don't think that the French have the cojones anymore to storm the Bastille.
I don't know. It looks to
I
me
think
like
they just
they're
wanna
doing a
whine and
real good
complain.
job of it. It depends on how far they get pushed, and we'll see how they respond to
But you look at
Macron's
what they're
how they respond to Macron's speech. But if I were a Frenchman over there listening to his speech, I would have been seriously angered.
well, Macron makes me angry, and I'm not even French. But if you look at what they're begging for, they want more cheaper housing and more wages, and they're wanting more government. Yet they're complaining.
No,
against
they
the
don't
government.
want more government. They
about that
want the government to leave them alone. Mark, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Share the gift from above, the power of love, so that every day's Christmas.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you one from Amazon.com. I just wanted you to know I saw my doctor and I laughed because he said, "I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it." I have been taking Extendivite. I had borderline high blood pressure, heart flutter, high cholesterol. I changed my diet and included Extendivite with an amazing turnaround for the better. A few months later, I had a doctor's appointment and took a stress test. I passed. No heart flutter, blood pressure was perfect. My doctor even took me off my medicine. I thank you truly from the bottom of my heart. This stuff works, and I'm so grateful for Extendivite. Thank you, Justin G. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And last week, there was a bit of a confrontation at the United Nations General Assembly in which several measures were put forward that were very pro-Israel. One was a U.S.-backed measure to condemn Hamas. That went down to failure and was seen as a huge blow to Israel and the United States. Now, General Assembly resolutions are not binding. It is merely taking a vote of the sense of the world, how they feel about what's going on. But generally, the sentiment coming out of the General Assembly is that they have really had it with Israel. And another good example would be a resolution. They had 6 resolutions passed condemning Israel. One of them, A73L29, which was entitled simply Jerusalem, called for respect for the historical status quo at the holy places of Jerusalem, including the Haram al-Sharif. Now, what this resolution is basically suggesting is the rest of the world does not see a connection between Judaism and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And the fact that the United Nations resolution used Haram al-Sharif rather than the Temple Mount is seen as a further indication of the rejection of Israel's continued claim that they own it all. This resolution received 148 votes in favor and only 11 against. So the world's getting really tired of all that. So, inevitably, in a fit of tantrum, Israeli settlers, led by the Minister of Agriculture, have stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque yesterday morning, accompanied, of course, by military reinforcement security from the Israeli Occupation Army. Because when you're going to go storm into somebody else's church, you take the military along with you to make sure that you get to do what you want to do. So according to sources at the Islamic Endowments Department, Israeli Minister of Agriculture Uri Ariel was leading a group of extremist settlers who entered through the Mughrabi Gate in the western wall of the mosque. Meanwhile, the Legislation Committee of the Israel Knesset yesterday approved 200 extra communities where non-Jewish inhabitants can be banned. That's 200 community. Actually, it's a total of 700, 200 new ones. So Israel is, if you say they're being racist or an apartheid state, they scream you're an anti-Semite that wants Hitler to come back and gas the Jewish babies in the oven. But this is it. 700 communities where non-Jews can be banned and stopped at the borders. This is like the Jim Crow laws in this country. And if it's racist here, if it was racist in South Africa, then it's racist in Israel. And that is just the hard reality. And I think, again, the world is being fed up with Israel just behaving like this, and with the assistance of the United States just being able to say, nope, 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 we're not being bad people at all. Really, really, God willed it. God willed it. We'll be right back after station identification.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party property, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And down in Iran, their Navy has launched a new stealth warship in the Gulf. It's called the Sahand Destroyer. It has advanced warfare capabilities, including anti-aircraft guns and surface-to-air missiles. And it's domestically produced within Iran. So they're just getting on out there, getting ready to defend themselves. They can see what's coming. Or maybe not. Interesting little article coming out of NBC News, no less, saying that Trump's international anti-Iran coalition may be falling apart and he does not have a backup plan. Now, Trump set out to pick a fight with Iran from the early days of his administration, and he was out there thumping his chest, but there have been a whole bunch of developments that seem to be pulling the rug out from under his feet. First, the U.S.-Saudi relations are now in their greatest crisis in history following the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. And the U.S. has turned a blind eye to the Saudis' involvement in the spread of terrorism, but Trump's shameless protection of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman caught everybody's attention. People are starting to notice that. Second, Saudi Arabia has already angered President Trump by cutting its oil production, arguably undermining its sole role in Trump's Iran strategy. Now, Israel has played a critical behind-the-scenes role in Trump's Iran policy. Actually, they're back there pushing on his shoulder blade saying, get him, get him, get him, get him. But now Netanyahu himself is facing his own existential fight for his political future. Israeli prosecutors have recommended indicting him again this week, and he may be forced to have early elections as his government falls apart. Trump's own political maneuverability is at risk. Now that he's lost the House of Representatives, they're going to be coming after him. They've already said they're going to be just investigating everything. Payments to Stormy Daniels, which, by the way, there's actually nothing illegal about that. Does he tear the tags off of his couch cushions? Does he have overdue library books from 30 years ago? So Trump is probably not going to be able to make Iran a priority. But the most important thing that has hit this agenda is the current sanctions policy failed to produce all that it was supposed to. Trump promised that the Iranian currency would continue to fall, Tehran's oil exports would go down to zero. Now, Iran's economy is hurting, but the currency has stabilized. And Trump himself was forced to issue 8 sanction waivers to European and Asian countries, undermining the policy right from the start. So it's fallen apart. Meanwhile, Brussels is still talking about creating an alternative payment channel to facilitate financial transactions between the EU and Iran in the nearest future to basically bypass the U.S. sanctions. This is the EU's top diplomat, Federica Mogherini. And again, the rest of the world is just getting tired of U.S. bullying and Israeli bullying. Speaking of bullying, China has summoned the U.S. envoy to lodge a strong protest over the arrest of the Huawei, I guess it is pronounced, CFO Meng Wanzhou. And China's foreign ministry has announced that, according to Reuters, Washington should also withdraw its arrest warrant. Now, any further measures will depend on the next steps taken by the U.S. Vice Foreign Minister Li Yancheng told the ambassador, the news agency said. Now, Meng was arrested while changing aircraft at Vancouver Airport on December 1st. She is now facing possible extradition to the United States over allegedly lying about her company's ties to Skycom, a company that tried to sell U.S. manufactured technologies to Iran despite the sanctions. Now, notice that she is still in Canada, and they're just saying Skycom tried to sell the technology. They're not saying they actually did it. So what's really going on here? Well, there's a couple of theories. One is that Meng Wanzhou is basically going to be used as leverage. As Trump goes back to trade talks with China, they're going to use her as leverage to get China to make concessions. If you will give us this, we will forget all about the arrest and we will send Meng Wanzhou home. But again, looking at the Asian mindset, this may backfire tremendously. Now, China is threatening severe retaliation against Canada if Meng Wanzhou is not released immediately. And the rhetoric is escalating there. There could be a real problem between China and Canada trade, which in turn could increase the pressure on the trade détente between the U.S. and China. That could dissolve into acrimony. And here is where it gets a little weird. Apparently, somebody broke into Meng Wanzhou's home in Vancouver. And there are no details yet available about the number of people involved or the motivation for the break-in or whether or not it's related to what's going on diplomatically. It may be somebody was either looking for evidence or planting evidence. That would be my guess. And there's been a new dimension that's been added into this. As it turns out, this Chinese phone company, which is one of the largest in the world, uses a system of encryption the NSA cannot break. Gee, I wonder if they got it from my article. And apparently, a number of governments and secret services have ordered their staffs to equip themselves exclusively with these Huawei materials, these phones, in order that the Five Eyes cannot spy on them. And they have the confidentiality of their communications. And I'm sure the NSA is just absolutely livid about that. How dare you keep yourselves private from us? You're not allowed to do that. So what if they set up this arrest? Because remember, Trump didn't even know it had gone down when he was having dinner with Xi Jinping. And it wouldn't be the first time an intelligence agency just went on out and just did something. Remember Iran-Contra down in the 1980s. Reagan didn't know anything about that at all. And the NSA's attitude would have been, we need to find some way to get a backdoor into this product, and we don't care if it wrecks the economy in the process, and maybe that's going to be the quid pro quo. They'll send this CFO back to China if the phone company agrees to install a backdoor. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Adding more fuel to the fire. Apparently, the U.S. Treasury has imposed new sanctions on 3 top North Korean officials, including a close aide to leader Kim Jong-un. And Cho Ryong-hae, the director of the Workers' Party of Korea, Jong Kyung-taek, the North Korean Minister of State Security, and Pak Kwang-ho, the director of the Propaganda and Agitation Department for the Workers' Party, have all been added to the sanctions list. That's not a really good way to try and get negotiations going forward. And again, I see this as signs of a badly factionalized U.S. government. Left hand and right hand not in accord. The U.S. has donated a total of 38 J-8 Jeeps to the Guatemalan military. This actually happened last October. It's just coming out now. And supposedly it's going to be used for anti-narcotic operations, the war on drugs, meaning the war on the other guy's drugs. And in the spirit of making sure that no part of the planet is safe from the coming world war, a ship with a container full of the latest weaponry for the needs of a future Kosovo army is on its way across the Atlantic to the port of Durrës in Albania. And apparently the dangerous cargo will be taken from there to the Kosovo Security Forces bases. So the U.S. is now arming the Kosovo army. Boy, everybody's up in arms these days. Over in Togo, which is in West Africa, they have protests as well. And deaths have resulted. Opposition leaders are accusing regime soldiers of using live fire. And they're urging for those protests to continue as well. Okay, so let's talk about some weapons here. There's a new video out of a new Russian combat laser. It's ground-based. It's in a truck. They didn't demonstrate it actually firing, but it looks very, very impressive. And Russia's putting it on out there saying, well, if the U.S. is going to abandon the INF Treaty, we're going to need a lot more of these things, like these laser combat systems. And my understanding is that Russia is way ahead of the United States on lasers, in particularly dealing with the problem of thermal blooming, which tends to limit the range of optical lasers here. We've mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning again. NATO is saying they're completely vulnerable to Russian electronic warfare systems. Now, we know that's probably true because of what happened to the USS Donald Cook up in the Black Sea, but I'm sure the reason NATO is coming on out and admitting it is they want more money. Please give us more money. All right, we're going to take a phone call now from John in Vancouver. Aloha, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? John, are you there?
Hi, Mike. I hope you can hear me okay.
I hear you now.
Hello?
I hear you now.
Okay.
You're on the air.
Right on. The Huawei arrest, that happened in Vancouver, where I live.
Yes.
And I've got a question. If you don't cross out of the airside at most airports, are you technically not in that country? Isn't that how it works?
Well, she lives in Vancouver, so she may have been... I don't know where she was traveling to or from, whether she was traveling internationally or not. But you're absolutely correct. If you're in the international section of an international airport, I think that you are not considered to be on the sovereign territory of the host nation. I could be wrong about that. I'm just, grasping at straws here. I don't know what the rules would be.
It's all very murky. The other thing is that I believe, from what I read, there's a blog called Moon of Alabama. It's very good. And they said that she was going to the G20 in Argentina. And so she was just transferring. And if she did cross through the security, and then, well, fair enough, sounds like it's a fair arrest. But I don't know if that is. It's very murky. I don't know what actually happened. Now, the other thing I read on the Moon of Alabama, there was a very famous Chinese telecommunications physics guy who was working on quantum computing.
Yes.
And he was going to the same conference as she was. He had worked for Huawei in China, and he jumped out of a tall building in New York on the same day that she got arrested. And there's a bit of a write-up, like I said, on the Moon of Alabama site, which you might find interesting.
Well,
I can post it to you when I finish work today.
That's interesting, and I don't believe in coincidences. Of course, on the other hand, he may have realized that quantum computing is not going to live up to the potential of the media hype. But you're right. That's very, very interesting.
I'll try and send that to you, Michael.
Yeah,
and,
please do. I would
I'll
really
hang up.
appreciate that.
I will do that, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Getting on back to the conflict zones and so forth and so on, apparently the new advanced Sukhoi 57 multi-purpose jet, which is Russia's domestically produced fifth-generation stealth fighter, will be armed with hypersonic missiles. So it's going to be very stealthy, and it's going to be able to strike very, very fast. Now, getting back on over to the F-35, the much beleaguered, the much troubled F-35. It's developing some problems, and apparently they're now starting to acknowledge its invisibility has been compromised. And apparently part of the problem is the stealth configuration involves the aircraft's shape to remain pretty much constant. And unfortunately, as the aircraft gets flown more and more, bits of it are starting to sag. And that is changing the anti-radar profile. And over at Defense Aerospace, they wrote how the famous high-tech framework of the F-35, it's losing its properties faster than anyone has counted. And it can show up on radars. It can show up just like a passenger jet. And they're trying to figure out what to do about it. If they have to basically, every time the aircraft is used, they have to go back in and sort of tighten the lug nuts or something. But they're saying the formwork, Lockheed is saying the formwork has defects, but you don't need to change them all that often. But that's what the military is saying. That's going to have to be changed after every single flight. And there's yet another problem that came out over the weekend, because over the outside skin of the F-35, there's a special coating that is supposed to help absorb radar energy. And apparently it is deteriorating much more rapidly than anybody expected. This thing is a piece of junk. I actually feel sorry for all those countries who bought this lemon, except for Israel, of course. Over at Vandenberg Air Force Base, they were attempting to use a heavy lift Delta IV rocket to launch a classified National Reconnaissance Office payload, and it got down to 7.5 seconds on the countdown Saturday night when computers detected a problem and shut it down. What made it kind of scary is that flares that are designed to burn away excess hydrogen gas had already been lit. And so it was a little nervous for a while with all that fuel sitting there and these flares just, burning up into the sky. But nothing happened, and they defueled the rocket, and they're going to try and find what happened. Turning to our domestic politics, last week we were getting all these stories about John Kelly. Will he or won't he leave the White House? And pretty much everybody said, yeah, he was going to go, except Daily Caller, who claimed they had an inside source that he was going to stay. Well, that's why you have to be very cautious about inside sources. John Kelly is going to be gone by the end of the year, which, let's face it, that's just 3 weeks away. It was then thought that Nick Ayers, who is currently Mike Pence's chief of staff, would move into John Kelly's position. But apparently Nick Ayers has other ideas. and he wants to basically leave off being chief of staff to anybody and work for a pro-Trump super PAC. So Trump intends to make a decision on a new chief of staff by the end of the month. And, I could use a promotion. What can I tell you? All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Attention RBN listeners. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, founder of Front Sight Firearms Training, and Fate have come together to allow RBN to run another fundraiser till the end of the year. We didn't really expect this opportunity, but thankfully it's here and running as you hear this. We've set a goal of 500 donations by the end of the year, which averages around 6 per day, 7 days a week. When you realize all the folks listening to RBN all hours of the day and night, we think our goal is realistic and extremely critical to keep RBN on the air. If everybody listening will seriously assess their ability with firearms and then take advantage of this opportunity, we feel our goal is very conservative. Please take the time to look over Front Sight's website to get an idea of an amazing facility and the world-class training that's going on there. If this interests you, you likely will have like-minded friends that would like to know. Tell them. If for some reason some listeners are not personally interested, consider sons and daughters, close friends, nieces or nephews, top valued employees, inform club members, share the opportunity with police and fire departments. It's not too early to plan Christmas presents for special people. This fundraiser has come at an extremely critical time for RBN because the dire need for equipment upgrades. We're running on the spare tire currently with no money to fix a flat, and the fuel gauge is bouncing on E. This is one of the most valuable ways you can help RBN financially because you get Commander lifetime membership value that is 50 times your donation and can be passed on forever. How many times during life do you get to leave a legacy? See more details and contact info on our webpage, republicbroadcasting.org, and thank you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And as we mentioned before the commercial break, Mike Pence's chief of staff, Nick Ayers, has basically turned down the offer to be the White House chief of staff. And right now, speculation is focusing on Mark Meadows as possibly coming on in and being the new chief of staff. Now, as you know, Nikki Haley is stepping down as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and current State Department spokeswoman and former Fox News personality Heather Nauert is going to be the next U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. That's the good part. The bad part is the position is being downgraded to a non-cabinet position, which means Heather doesn't get to go to the cabinet meetings and put her input into the discussion there. All right, so let's talk about James Comey, who finally got his chance to testify behind closed-door interview, was told not to answer a lot of questions by his own lawyers, and somebody actually kept account. He said, I don't know 166 times, I don't remember 71 times, I don't recall 8 times, but his memory's good enough where he's writing a book, or has written a book about his career. Right out of Watergate here. But basically, in the transcript, the FBI brass called the Clinton interview unusual. This was about her email server, where she was interviewed in her home, not under oath, and basically just, that's not the way these things get done. And there was a feeling within the FBI that her use of a private email server was, quote, appalling, end quote, and her handling of classified information. Now, Comey, on exiting the interview Friday, was trying to mock reporters and say, are we talking about Hillary Clinton's emails again? That's so old news. Well, James, it's unresolved, especially if there's more to the story than has been let on out, like, oh, for example, espionage. Now, as you know, it's a race to the end of the wire, because the new Congress is going to come on in January 20th, and the House is just going to shut down every single investigation they can. So they're rushing to try and get this stuff out here. And the House subcommittee this week is finally going to hear the report on the investigation into the Clinton Foundation. And there is just so much out there. They're not going to be able to cover this one up. Now, Donald Trump is nominating former Attorney General William Barr to replace Jeff Sessions. Barr has been critical of the Russian investigation, but he will pull no punches in investigating the Clintons. Now, of course, the Democrats are going to scream and cry and say, oh, the Clintons are a holy family. They're saving the world and promoting world peace. But apparently there is a lot of stuff going on. I mean, the pay-for-play is documented. There were 3 different whistleblowers totaling more than 6,000 pages of documents. Now, the House of Representatives may shut down the House investigations, but there are private entities out there looking at this stuff. Judicial Watch, Freedom Watch, and now this MDA Analytics LLC. And apparently the CFO of the Clinton Foundation, Andrew Kessel, was talking with investigators from MDA Analytics and basically spilled the beans, saying he knew where all the bodies are buried. And Kessel told MDA, there is no controlling Bill Clinton. He does whatever he wants, and he runs up incredible expenses with foundation funds. Bill Clinton mixes and matches his personal business with that of the foundation. Many people within the foundation have tried to caution him about this. He does not listen, and there really is no talking to him. Now, there comes a point where your hubris, your pride, your arrogance can become your downfall. And I would say, at least as far as Bill Clinton is concerned, this may be it. Or during the foundation, they felt they were untouchable, that they could do what they wanted, and nothing was ever going to happen. But there is so much that is coming on out. Even the corporate media has started to cover some of this stuff. And all they need to do is to get the Department of Justice to commit to an investigation, or get the IRS to commit to an investigation, and then the new democratically controlled House of Representatives can't do a thing about it. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're going to talk about a story that was mentioned briefly in a phone call earlier in the program. Has to do with the issue of ballot harvesting. Now, over in North Carolina, the Democrats are out there screaming that ballot harvesting was used to cheat the Democratic candidate out of the election. He's withdrawn his concession. They're still thrashing around. They don't know where that's going to go here. But out in California, where ballot harvesting was switching red districts to blue, It was a great thing. It flipped 7 seats out in California. But of course, out in California, it's legal. Ballot harvesting is illegal in North Carolina. We need a unified election system instead of this mishmash that we've got here right now. By the way, Precinct 38083 in Orange County had a 120% voter turnout. And by the way, have you noticed the media is really going on about the possibility of GOP election fraud in North Carolina? Have you noticed no matter how much the Democrats are caught cheating, the corporate media will never report it? Definitely not. Democratic Representative Cohen, who was on Saturday's Rented Lips broadcast of MSNBC's AM Joy, basically brought up this whole Russia collusion thing again, saying that Trump's presidency is directly a byproduct of Vladimir Putin, that nobody would have voted for Trump. The Russians just came on in and forced him on us. It's ridiculous. It really, really is. Now, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's saying a lot of really bizarre things. She's out there making promises she can't possibly keep. And now, of course, she's claiming Jewish ancestry as part of the pandering. And apparently, while at a photo shoot for Politico at Harvard last Thursday, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez basically said she might run for president in 2020. There's only one small problem. Alexandria is just 29 years old, and the Constitution requires the U.S. president to be at least 35 years old. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a member of the United States House of Representatives, does not know the Constitution, the fundamental law of the United States of America. It's not that hard to get. They're all over the place. You can get a copy of that thing. Go on down to the National Archives. Read the original. Anyway, let's talk about the economic news here. India and the United Arab Emirates have agreed to trade in their local currencies. They have a currency swap agreement that operates without the involvement of a third country, meaning goodbye to the United States dollar. And they've stated it's to reduce the dependency on hard currencies like the U.S. dollar. Everyone's getting sick and tired of the weaponized, hegemonic U.S. dollar. Apparently, Goldman Sachs, they were sort of being optimistic, and they were predicting 4 Fed rate hikes for next year, which is even higher than the Federal Reserve's own dot plot forecast, which anticipates 3 rate hikes next year. Well, Sunday night, Goldman capitulated, and in a note titled "The Ides of March," said that, yeah, there's less than a 50% probability of a rate hike in the March, at which point the dollar slid. It's amazing how fragile the economy is. Just little tiny things, and all of a sudden everything goes into chaos, especially the stock market. The United States has now set a hard deadline for China trade talks, saying that there will be a deal before March 1st or tariffs will go up. And meanwhile, of course, China is saying that the U.S. should withdraw its arrest warrant for Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou, who, by the way, apparently her husband has just offered $11 million bail in cash. I'm sure the Canadians are going to be looking at that rather hard. The reality is the economy is not good. Forget about what the corporate media is telling you about low unemployment. We know that's a lie. We know that the claims about GDP growth and interest rates, they're a lie. Right now, people are struggling with an incredible amount of debt from student loans and credit cards. And I wonder at those people who are so brainwashed that even though they're struggling with all that debt, boy, are they whipping out that plastic for this holiday shopping season. And you got to follow a simple rule. If you don't have the cash, don't buy it. People will understand. Christmas isn't supposed to be about the stuff. Remember Dick's Sporting Goods? They decided they were going to go pro-gun control, and they stopped carrying and selling firearms. As we're going to take a stand here. And immediately their business plummeted. Sales are down 4%. They're going to be forced to close 35 stores. All right, let's talk about the United Nations Migration Pact. It sounded like a really good idea when it was proposed a while back, and everybody said, oh, yes, people have a right to migrate wherever they want. But as the ramifications of that have sunk in, more and more countries are pulling out of it. The United States pulled out of it. Other countries are refusing to sign it. This Migration Pact is now sowing discord as states turn away and face their own domestic tensions. Now, the pact was originally drafted all the way back in 2015 in response to the 2015 refugee crisis. It was supposed to set out a common understanding of shared responsibilities and unity of purpose. In other words, open your borders. You're not allowed to have closed borders. But more and more countries are saying, no, we can't do that anymore. We cannot do that anymore. Over in Great Britain, there's been a bit of an upset. There is this anti-Russia charity, the Institute for Statecraft, which is funded on public money. And its job is supposed to be tackling so-called Russian disinformation. But apparently they spent a large chunk of money targeting Jeremy Corbyn. And the Labour Party is absolutely furious over this egregious use of public money here. Over in Germany, as you know, Angela Merkel is stepping down as head of the Christian Democratic Union. And the new one who just came out in, Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, is saying she intends to review the country's migration policies, adding that the party's campaign during the 2019 European Parliament elections would be based on these potential changes. So there's definitely a change in the wind over there. Over in France, there's this Irish university lecturer was stabbed to death by one of his former students because he'd allegedly insulted the prophet Mohammed. And the killer has been arrested by the French police. The 66-year-old academic, was known locally as John Dowling, was attacked and stabbed 13 times outside the Paris University where he worked. Ali R, just the initial, a 37-year-old Pakistani national, has confessed to the killing and admitted he held a personal grudge against the teacher after failing his exams last year. Well, perfectly reasonable reaction, I think, if you're a Pakistani here. Here in the United States of America, hepatitis A is breaking out all over the country. It's now hit Indiana, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Where is it coming from? Well, it's breaking out in all the places where these refugees have been sent to live. So this open border issue, it's not just about national security, it is a public health issue. And George Soros is literally bringing disease to Europe and the United States because what the heck? You know, so a few people get sick and die. It's no big deal. This was a really weird story. It was on Twitter, and it was basically a CCTV in a store, and this migrant was caught on this CCTV basically rubbing up against this woman in Germany, and he was behind her, and she didn't see. He was basically abusing herself at the same time he was bumping into her. If you import third world people, you're going to get third world problems. There's been another one here. This happened in New Jersey, where this 20-year-old illegal alien was arrested and charged. Brian Cordero Castro. He stabbed to death 16-year-old Madison Wells for having broken off a 10-month relationship with him. And the father is speaking out, saying, why was this allowed to happen? Kevin McAleen, Commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Service, said that human smugglers in Central America are running their operation like travel agencies. Just, with storefronts, people coming on in, and, they're charging these families and individuals thousands of dollars to reach the U.S. border with Mexico, and they're advertising the catch and release program, saying, we're going to get you across the border. Yes, you'll be arrested, but then they'll release you inside the United States of America. Isn't that such a sweet deal? All right, we're going to take a phone call now from Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, remember when they were going after Jeremy Corbyn, with the anti-Semitic, but remember when they put the Russian hat on him, and it was in the magazine or on the newspaper? That was in the newspaper, right?
Yes.
They changed his hat, remember? And
Yep.
and then there's that, like you were talking, there's that Scotland, there's some kind of like a front group. They spent $2 million to give, Jeremy Corbyn a bad name. So this is all this dirty tricks. You got these third-party groups, companies, like, which could be labeled like the intelligence agencies front groups, right? That's what it is, right?
Yep.
MI5, and they go after the politicians. I mean, look at over here. The CIA was spying on our own senators and congressmen. So they're already either corrupted or, they can't really do anything because they'll get information released about their lives or this or that, blackmail. How sad, though, Mike, like what we've become. I mean, we resorting to kidnapping now of the Chinese woman whose father owns the company, right? I mean, this is what it's about. It's about fascism here. This is basically, we can't compete with their company who makes cell phones, so this is what we resorted to. My God. I mean, this is it. Huawei is the second largest.
I'm really starting to think that this whole thing over the cell phone is about the fact that the NSA can't break into it. And this is all about forcing the company to put a back door. And it wouldn't be the first time the NSA has done that. Many years ago, there was this big scandal in Europe where there was this private encryption device company, Crypto AG. And all of a sudden, communications that were being sent using the system started to be compromised. And it eventually came out. I think this was in the book, The Puzzle Palace. The NSA simply went to the owner of the company and said, we're going to give you a ton of money if you will backdoor your own machine for us. And the guy went along with it.
Yeah, see, like how many people are willing to say no? And then you know what, Mike, if you say no to the money, they'll come at you from another direction, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
It's like, and Mike, a lot of this with the Huawei has to do with they won't let them in the 5G network, right? And ZTE, remember ZTE? They won't let them in either.
Yes.
Into the 5G. So this is all about economics, Mike. And, China needs to play it smart. Like they just put a ban on certain cell phones, Apple phones. Not all of them. Some, the court ordered over there. So remember,
iPhone sales are banned in China right now because of this patent litigation with Qualcomm.
Yeah, so I mean, this economic war is going to keep continuing, and it's going to really hurt us. I mean, we take one step forward and 10 steps back. It's like it's going to end real bad.
Yeah, it is going to end real bad. Our economy's too fragile to be fighting economic wars.
And Mike, do I still have time? I wanted to switch gears about Did you talk about anything about the Russia Tu-160s that landed in Venezuela? That's the Blackjack.
No, I hadn't. You've got about 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's the Blackjack bomber. It's otherwise known as the White Swan. That's like basically looks like the B-1, the B-1 bomber.
Yes.
Basically, yeah, 2 of them landed over there. You had an IL-62 and an AN-124 in Venezuela landed, and also 5 IL-62s landed in Crimea, which is most likely airborne troops. Now, the 1,000 tanks on the border, I really doubt that until I see a satellite photo. Because remember the last satellite photo we saw from Ukraine? It was a 1950s
It was a complete
photo.
fake.
Remember that?
It was a complete fake. Well, these are very clear satellite photos, and they show military vehicles lined up on a field. But unless they give us the latitude and longitude so we can verify that we're looking at the exact same place ourselves, it's just more propaganda.
Yeah, it's hard to hold 1,000 tanks for a couple of weeks on I mean, they got a base an hour and a half away, so maybe that's what they mean, because that's probably a base where they house tanks, so they can spin this any way they want, and Mike, I hate to tell everybody, but the Ukraine start with something. Most of the Ukrainian troops will run for cover and leave their NATO equipment behind like they did the last time. So that's all I got to say, Mike. Have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines, reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat. Very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer for me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer for me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones here to Lenny in California. Aloha, Lenny. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I want to talk about what Dustin was just talking about. We're looking at total, what I call corporate thuggery of United States kidnapping China's executive, or having Canada to do the dirty work. Is no different than the hunter-gatherers tribes kidnapping one another and trading them off, for whatever the reason. But, and now China is saying they're trying to put a ban on the Apple phones. Now the Apple executives are asking the United States to do something about it. What did they expect was going to happen?
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's thuggery. The United States, because of the way the government has been managing the country, has lost the essential elements to having a functioning economy, good manufacturing, good agriculture products to sell. And now they're producing inferior products like the F-35, and they resort to arm twisting other countries to buy the product. Yes, our Patriots are more expensive and they're not as good as the S-400, but you will buy our product. You've got a nice country there. It'd be bad if, terrible if something bad happened to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a really sad thing. And I'm looking at Macron and his little speech to the people. So basically what he's doing is he's using the people's money, the taxpayers' money, to buy their loyalty, temporarily, albeit, okay? But it's still the classic definition of a politician, which I call totally classless. I mean, these people these are the lowest of the low when it comes to humanity, if you want to call them humans. But I want to jump to Jared Kushner, and you mentioned him earlier in your show today. Jared Kushner has always been the go-between between Israel, the United States, and Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Trump, I'm sure, would love to get rid of Mohammed bin Salman, but it was Netanyahu that said, no, I need him. And then Trump said, okay, well, I guess, we'll keep him. But it was Jared Kushner that furnished the names of the royal family, who were the so-called enemy within for Major bin Salman. And when he gave them the names, he put them in a hotel and tortured them. Some of them he actually killed. Now, what Jared Kushner got in return was Major bin Salman.
Lenny, we got to back up. First of all, it's pronounced Salman, not Solomon. And what Solomon did was he held his own relatives, his own family members, and he literally extorted cash from them, because Saudi Arabia's government was very cash poor because of that oil war. So it was a little more complex than that. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is what Jared Kushner got in return for furnishing those names to Salman, okay, was the Saudi Arabia sold out the Palestinians, and it turns out that Jared Kushner supposedly had investments in the settlements over there, where they were being invested over there.
All right, well, listen, Lenny, we got to let you go. We got to do station identification. We got another caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $400? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. And the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. So let's take a phone call from Glenn in Philadelphia. Aloha, Glenn. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Over a year ago, I purchased a Huawei Android smartphone with a 6.5-inch diagonal measure HD display on closeout from China Mart for just under $40.
Wow.
The phone has performed admirably, for all the time since. And I say that to point out that we're not seeing the expected economies of scale kick in with cell phones, the way one would expect. We were seeing depreciation in cell phones, and like when AT&T was, vending the phones with discounts and subsidizing them and stuff like that, you would see the prices, the phones drop as market saturation kicked in or newer models came out. But now we're seeing this, it seems we're seeing this artificial inflation, and the keeping up of the prices, especially with the iPhone and, with the higher end Samsungs. And I personally, I wouldn't mind paying more for a phone if I thought some of that profit were in a fair trade fashion going to the workers, that make the phones. But we're seeing phenomenal greed and these people working in really oppressive work environments, everything from cell phones to laptops, tablets, you name it. And I just find this type of market, very disturbing. There's a real lack of equity in terms of compensation for those who make the phones. There's a lack of normal competitive pricing and market forces at work in the prices of the phones. And it just seems that this particular market is really, really screwed up.
Well, it is, and be a situation of American companies are trapped by their debt load, where they have to keep prices up so they can keep their stockholders happy and keep their investors happy. The other part of course, is the just out of control pay schedules for the top executives, which are just completely out of line with the rest of the world. And in a healthy economy where we've all got a lot of money, they could get away with it. The reason it's all falling apart now is we simply don't have the money. And I'm going to make a prediction here right now that come January, when all that shopping is over, that we're going to see several iconic retailers simply announce they didn't make enough on this holiday shopping season to basically get out of trouble, and they're going to go away. We know that Sears is hovering right. Well, Sears is heading out anyway. But I mean, this last year we've seen so many iconic retailers fade away, and I'll give you two examples: Toys R Us and Babies R Us, which is obviously something that we would need right about this time of year. There's been nothing to come along to take their place, and for some reason, down at the bottom of the hill, somebody's got some optimism because they're refurbishing them all and trying to build it up again to try and attract, I think, both a higher standard of retailer and a higher clientele, but the clientele just may not be there. I think there's a lot of denial going on in our financial system and even within our government. And even within Macron's government, they're absolutely convinced there's still vast amounts of wealth out there. All they have to do is figure out a way to reach out and rake it in, and they'll be in really good shape. But no, it's just not there. And the French people have been pushed to the edge of revolt. And it's not just the taxes, it's the cost of living, it's the salaries, it's those traffic cameras. Something like 800 of those have been destroyed so far. You can only push a population so far where they're sitting there thinking, I've got really nothing left to lose, and it's time to do something. And I'm not encouraging that, but I'm just saying I understand it.
Right. Well, the other thing is, people are busy. Like, I work a lot of hours. I don't have time to go fritter time away at the mall. So I've sort of been forced to buy more and more online. And while I don't necessarily, I understand their issues with Bezos and Amazon and stuff like that, him being, this gazillionaire, but it's pretty convenient when I can go click, and then 2 days later have something show up on my doorstep. So it saves me a trip to the mall. That's one thing.
Well, it's a little different here in Hawaii, unfortunately, because we've had so many stores go out of business, like Radio Shack and Circuit City. And a lot of the small boutique computer shops are now gone. I don't have any choice but to buy stuff online. And here in Hawaii, it's click, and wait as much as a month to get it. So it's kind of a rough situation.
Yeah, I miss Radio Shack. I'd have to go online if I wanted a double pull, double throw illuminated panel switch, number 17-1363.
Well, that's a big part of what Radio Shack did to destroy itself, is they forgot their original clientele, their original market, which was the electronic hobbyist, and they just pushed that off to a corner, and they started trying to compete with everybody else selling cell phones and smart devices, and they divided the market, and it was a major strategic blunder on their management's part.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking to you on my my Samsung smartphone with about a 4.5 inch, 4 or so inch display, but I have a slider keyboard with tactile feedback, and I can, when my battery goes dead, I pop it back off, slap in a new battery, and keep right on going.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving up. It's an outdated version of Android OS, but there's occasionally I run into apps I can't run, but for what I do with it, I'm not giving it up anytime soon.
Well, no, I understand that. I mean, Claire and I did not have a lot of luck with Android. We're definitely with our iPhones. And to be very honest, and this may be another indicator of how desperate these companies are, when we went on in to get replacement iPhones, because Claire had accidentally dumped her previous iPhone in the water, we got a really good deal where we got the newer iPhones, we got literally free iPads and a lower monthly bill all at the same time. And it's like, how can you not like that?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But so anyway, again, my heart goes out to the workers who make this stuff. I would just like to feel like, someone might buy fair trade coffee, in hopes that the agricultural workers south of the border maybe get a little better lifestyle. But I mean, everybody's touting free trade. I would really like to see the wealth spread around a little more, But,
well, there is no question
anyway,
there's a lot of economic injustice in this world here, and I don't consider myself a socialist. I consider myself a capitalist as it used to be in this country, but we've gone down the path toward fascism, which is those who make money get to keep it, and those who lose money dump the losses onto the taxpayer. And that's not a system that's going to last for much longer.
I've always liked the like the line from Hello Dolly, the musical Hello Dolly, where Walter Matthau, is a wealthy entrepreneur, says about money that it's like manure. It's not much use unless you spread it around.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
Alrighty. Alrighty, Mike. Thank you. Take care. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. And okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network here. And that was our last phone call. So the lines are open. Over in Great Britain, there's been a major development. British Prime Minister Theresa May has now decided to delay the so-called meaningful vote on the Chequers Brexit deal, because it was for certain that had the election taken place, which was due for tomorrow, it was going to be defeated. There was already talk that she was going to have to step down. So she's put it on delay, and I'm not entirely sure where she can go from here. I don't think she can just bypass Parliament and go directly to the EU with this deal and say, here, it's done. But I don't know what she's going to do, because the EU will not back off their demands for the Brexit deal. I think she's just delaying the inevitable. And I think Theresa May's government may start coming apart over this whole situation. Okay, a little bit of good news. Do you remember back when the Obamas were in office, and one of the ways that Michelle tried to act like she was relevant to the process of governing was she put out this school lunch program where they came up with a bunch of arbitrary rules that all schools with a school lunch program had to follow, and it resulted in some of the most unappetizing and ugly food, much of which wound up just being dumped in the trash cans. It was that bad. Well, the Trump administration has now rolled all of that back, and so now the school cafeterias can go back to making things that the kids are going to want to eat, because better that they eat reasonably healthy food than not eat totally healthy food at all. It just doesn't work all that way. This happened last week, and over in Charlottesville, this gentleman, James Fields, was found guilty of first-degree murder for the August 12, 2017 death of Heather Heyer, along with 9 other charges. And apparently the jury did not buy that he was acting in self-defense when he drove down the street at a high rate of speed, even though the defense had found an Antifa member who had admitted brandishing an AR-15 at this guy. Over in Massachusetts, oh, we love those liberal states here, the courts in Massachusetts gave an order for the gun permits that had previously been taken back be reinstated. The Massachusetts governor is choosing to ignore that court order, which I think would put him in contempt of court. But apparently Governor Charles Baker defended his role in a legal battle over firearm licenses, arguing that the state was required to tell local police chiefs hundreds of people should have their permits revoked at the urging of federal officials. So everybody's passing the buck. This gun owner hasn't actually done anything, but we have this person telling this person, telling this person, telling this person they probably should not have their guns. It's amazing. Over in New Jersey, as you know, they passed a new law banning the possession of any magazine capable of holding more than 10 rounds of ammunition. And the state police and the Attorney General's office haven't been able to actually say how they plan to enforce the law. And they haven't even come up with any guidance for those currently in possession of the magazines. I imagine those who currently have the magazines are probably going to hide them someplace. So apparently the law signed by Governor Phil Murphy says that people who possess magazines that'll hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition have 180 days to surrender them, permanently modify them to only accept up to 10 rounds, or transfer them to somebody who's allowed to legally own them. Now, here's a good one. Over in Sydney, Australia's really gone down the dark side. They just passed this new encryption law. All electronic devices have to be open to Australian police. Apparently, at the University of Sydney, there's this professor, Tim Anderson, and he came on out basically with a book, The Dirty War on Syria, that documented the war propaganda against Iraq, Syria, and Palestine. And he was suspended. You're not allowed to criticize the propaganda anymore, apparently, here. Up in Scotland, there's the shopping mall that has decided they're not going to allow a Christmas nativity display, and Twitter just went completely ballistic on them. So I really hate this politicalization of the holidays. If we're going to go back to being reasonable people, that means that you respect your own culture and beliefs and identity first, but you also have respect for other people's points of view. That means that Christians are allowed to have nativity scenes, Jews are allowed to have menorahs, and we just step back and we say, live and let live. We don't attack each other's symbols. Over in California, as you know, they're broke. They are absolutely broke. They've got a pension crisis. They've got huge costs that have been incurred by the illegal immigrant problem. So what are they going to do? Tell the illegal immigrants to leave and stop using up all the funds? Oh, no, we can't do that. We need them to vote Democratic. So California now wants to impose a tax on texting from your phone. That's their new solution. They want to tax your texts. Now, as we mentioned earlier, Apple is dealing with a broad iPhone sales ban in China, and the issue has to do with a patent battle with Qualcomm involving some of the features. In particular, one that allows users to reformat the size and appearance of photos and manage applications on a touch screen while navigating through the phone apps. And Apple is filing an appeal to overturn this sales ban in China. Now, I understand the idea of a patent and intellectual property, but sometimes it does get down to really narrow extremes that cause more harm than good. When I was first getting started with computer animation, there was actually a company that tried to patent the concept of anti-aliasing, even though it had been in the academic press and it's a standard thing. Everybody was doing it. But this company actually came on out and tried to patent anti-aliasing so that anybody using anti-alias software would have to pay them a piece of the action. We're going to get you a piece of the action here. Over at Patreon, Sargon of Akkad got his account banned. And this is Carl Benjamin is his real name. Was removed from Patreon service, and get the reason why. He used the N-word on another YouTube stream 10 months ago. I mean, they're just going back and just looking for reasons to do this thing. Gavin McInnes, the founder of Proud Boys, has been unpersoned on YouTube. All the channels are down. Facebook suspended Ben Garrison's cartoon page for 24 hours because of his cartoon about the evil holiday gift guide. So it now raises a question. Is Silicon Valley morphing into the morality police? I always thought they were all about technology. But now they're becoming the morality police, controlling free speech on its platforms, which means their executive offices have been infiltrated by intelligence operatives. We've got to take a break for commercials here. We've got a caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. By Mel. Great product. My husband and father-in-law use it regularly. Both my husband and father-in-law have had significant change in their blood pressure and overall health. By Amazon customers. It works for me. Returned to buy the tincture and the capsules as they were on sale during February. Unlike some other products, this one worked for blood pressure and occasional irregular heartbeat. Extendivite produced noticeable results after just 2 bottles, a 4-month supply. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're going to go to the phones here to Art off the grid. Aloha, Art. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Okay. I'm sure anybody would admit that there are, regardless of who the host is, there are always times when they'll be talking about something you don't care much for, and so you'll get up and you'll leave, go take care of something, come back, whatever. And I was doing that. I went outside for a second to take care of something. I walked back in the door, and I heard taxing your text.
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, I didn't hear where this was taking place. So before I say anything, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this was in California.
You're absolutely right. That's where they're planning to do this.
Okay. Somehow it just sounded like something, commie fornication would do.
Yes.
All right. Well, I've always said if you really want to know in which direction the nation's going, you watch two particular states. You watch California, and then you watch New York. These are your two big ones.
Yes.
And then there are others that are just below them. But you watch those two. Those are the two big ones. And see, here's the thing. Now, people like me, I pay $30 a month. Prepaid, covers unlimited talk and text.
Yes.
Now, why do I do that? Well, I live on an extremely limited budget, and so I have to make sure that for every dollar I spend, I get my $3 worth.
Yep.
There are a lot of people in this country, if not the majority of the people in this country, who are living this way now. And they've become, for better or for worse, a little bit better at it. It takes a little getting used to, but in time you get pretty good at living on a shoestring budget when all you have are, a couple short pieces of thread to work with.
Yes.
So now here's here's where I'm kind of thrown when I hear things like taxing your text. First of all, that doesn't bode well for those who are already suspicious that our texts and our emails are being monitored. Okay? This just is going to add to that paranoia. And paranoia is an unfounded fear, and my fears are not unfounded. So that doesn't do well for my already suspicious mind. Then I have to wonder, okay, is it just going to be a tax per text, or are they going to tax per word? And if they're going to get into this per word, how are they going to know how many words you're using? You see, this opens up a whole new can of worms that a lot of people are going to want answers to some serious questions, and I don't think anyone's prepared to give those answers. Do you?
Probably not, but I imagine it's going to be simply a tax per text, because to tax per word or letter would be openly admitting that the texts are being scanned and read, albeit by machines, and that's already a hot button topic with the American people. But the idea of the story is not so much that the texts are being taxed, it's that these various governments, both at the state and federal level, they're desperate. They are out of money, and they're trying desperately to figure out some way they can get you to give more. But we're already at the point where the French people are. We pay huge amounts in taxes. We get almost nothing back in value from the government. It's all going to the war machine. It's going to the refugees. It's going to the illegal immigrants. It's going to political corruption. It's going to Israel. And a lot of people can be forgiven for asking, why am I giving so much money, working so hard and giving so much money to get so little of it back?
Right. And it just, it never ceases to amaze me. Remember back during when they first began to, and this is what a lot of people, their long-term memory just doesn't really click. Remember back during the debate of the TARP program?
Yes.
When a lot of discussion was earmarks and riders.
Yes.
And in this toxic asset relief program was $350 million, which would be earmarked towards educating your children on how to manage money. How's that been working out for everybody? Are we getting a return on that $150 million?
No, that didn't work out at all. The problem is, how easy it is to manage money depends on how much you've got. If you've got a lot of money, if you've got a comfortable amount of money, it's very easy to manage the money. What they're trying to do is teach kids on how to basically get by on the absolute bare minimum, because that's where we're being driven. We're heading for a situation in which we are going to be just like the French. We're going to have just enough to live on, and everything else will go to the government.
Yep. And, you know, I find it very odd that the very people who just cannot seem to balance a budget to save their lives think that they're better qualified than we are to teach our children how to manage money. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It
Hey,
really,
thanks,
it
Mike.
really
Talk to you
is.
later, man.
All right, Art, well, thanks an awful lot. Got to take another break for commercials. Got another caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $400? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones here. Rick in Arizona. Aloha, Rick. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yo, Mike. I just wanted to give a shout out to Sway Guevara and John Monadio, Handsome Truth on from the GDL, Handsome Truth. Those were the guys that got Brett Favre to read that cameo. As far as the censoring goes, if we don't try to put a stop to this, you're next. If they get these people off the internet and nobody makes a big fuss about it, then they're going to take it to the next level. And it's going to be you. It's going to be even, I'm not sure about Alex, because I was watching Alex a couple days ago, and he was interviewing a guy with a Make America Great hat on, and on his wall he had the Israeli flag, not the American flag. He had the Israeli flag. So I don't know if they'll take Alex down, but I see that if they get everybody off of YouTube smoothly, and there's not a lot of politicians making a fuss about it, RBN, anybody else that's really even kind of not even edgy is going to go next. So we have to support people like Handsome Truth. The guy doesn't take any money. He's nonviolent. He's got a lot of charisma, and he can communicate with people. See, Sway is Puerto Rican or Mexican. He's not even white. John Menadio is Italian. So this attack by the media saying it's white supremacists is just hogwash.
Yes.
And so I just want to let people know that we have to call your politician, call your representatives. It's just, I don't know. I just hope to hell that, they don't take it to the next level, and just support these people and just whatever. Thanks for taking my call.
All right. Well, you're certainly welcome here. And at some point, there's going to be a First Amendment issue that's being raised here. But I'm already seeing a phenomenon in that as people turn away from the controlled corporate social media sites like Facebook and Google and Twitter, they're starting to evolve ways of bypassing. They're communicating more through direct email. They're setting up mailing lists. And they're just going to find a workaround where all of these tightly controlled corporate media outlets they're still going to be in charge of the people who are looking for funny kitten videos. But for those of us discussing what's really going on in this country, there are going to be ways to get around that. And somebody may be working to bring back what was called FidoNet. See, here's the thing. At some point, there's only so much the corporate social media can do. To go any further than that, then the government has to step in, and then it becomes a First Amendment issue going up to the Supreme Court. So again, I am seeing so many symptoms in our central federal government that it is on the verge of tearing itself apart. I think it may self-destruct before it becomes a threat to much more of the American people. I certainly hope that's going to be the case here. Alrighty, so the phone lines are open. Getting on back to the news here. We were talking about the morality police, how Silicon Valley is apparently less interested in new technology and more interested in enforcing certain views. And apparently Google has now approved an app for Muslims to report people who commit blasphemy. And the app is called Smart Pakem, and it launched in Indonesia last month at the request of the Indonesian government, will allow users and government officials to uphold Sharia law and target and report people who hold misguided beliefs in violation of Islamic law. So they ought to rename Google. Instead of Google, it ought to be AFAB, anything for a buck. Another story, this one is coming out of Investment Watch blog, and it's talking about a new report from the Oxford Internet Institute, basically saying that there is a growing threat of organized social media manipulation worldwide. And despite efforts to combat computational propaganda, the problem is growing at a large scale. So they're buying computers to basically go on out and basically throw out junk news, disinformation, trying to polarize and manipulate voters. But you know, it's an interesting thing about propaganda. It only works if the population doesn't realize they're being propagandized. Once the general population understands they are being propagandized, it stops being effective. Because when people hear something, the first thing they're going to think is this more propaganda? And that's probably one of the things that would be really good to be teaching those people who are still on the blue pill. Is you need to understand you're lied to, not occasionally, but all the time. Saddam's nukes, human-caused global warming. In fact, there's another article that's out there on whatreallyhappened.com's front page about how if we don't curb carbon emissions in the next 15 years, the Earth will return to what it was 50 million years ago, of burning hot. The dinosaurs will come back, I guess is what they're saying here. Over in California, they're still cleaning up after those horrendous wildfires, which were caused by chronic mismanagement. On that one issue, Donald Trump is absolutely right. You don't let the wild areas just grow wild in the name of environmentalism and nature. The wild areas have to be managed, or you're going to get these kind of fires. Here is the situation. California doesn't have the money to fix all the damage. And the problems that led to this aren't being addressed. This is coming out of the Wall Street Journal. They're calling it yet another $1 trillion unfunded liability. So let's talk about some science and health news here. Apparently, infant ibuprofen has been recalled from Walmart and CVS. Tests revealed it had such high concentrations it could cause permanent kidney damage. Apparently, there was too much ibuprofen in there, and it could result in permanent renal or kidney damage among the babies. The company's statement said there's a remote possibility that infants may experience side effects including nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, and diarrhea due to the increased potency. I got to tell you, more people need to pay attention to those disclaimers at the end of those glitzy commercials for prescription medication. And by the way, did you know the United States is one of only 3 nations that allows prescription medication to be advertised to the public? So you go into your doctor and say, I saw this on TV last night. I want some. And the doctor says, oh, all right, here's a prescription here. Remember Vioxx? They had a major class action case down in Australia. Somebody has leaked on out the fact that Merck Pharmaceuticals made a hit list of doctors who were criticizing Vioxx. And the list, which was being emailed between Merck employees, contained doctors' names with the labels neutralize, neutralized, or discredit next to them. Now, we haven't heard from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in a while, but he's back in the news. Basically, he filed suit against the Department of Health and Human Services for vaccine safety violations. They won the lawsuit. It turns out this federal agency, which is supposed to be looking out for vaccine safety, is paid taxpayer money to look out for vaccine safety, had not been carrying out tests on vaccines for over 30 years. In other words, vaccine safety is a sham. It's an advertising phrase. So here we had a government agency that was charged with protecting the public, and they're not doing their job. They don't want to get in the way of Big Pharma's cash cow, because Big Pharma writes those huge campaign donation checks here. Apparently, there are 271 new vaccines in the pipeline in the medical industrial complex. And why not just get out those needles and stick them on in? Because remember, that National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986 absolved drug companies from all medical legal liability when children die or become chronically ill with vaccine-induced autoimmune disorders. So they just crank that stuff on out, and it's harming people. We keep seeing it in the news over and over again, but nothing can happen to them. And it's not just that act. There was actually a rider in the Homeland Security Act that reiterated it. Vaccine companies are safe, they're indemnified from civil litigation. And the rationale was, in the event of a biological terror attack, the vaccine companies would have to move as quickly as they could without fear of litigation. Now, here's a story coming out of John Rappaport's blog, and it's basically about the growing problem of faked medical reality. And let me give you a quote here. It is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published or to rely on the judgment of trusted physicians or authoritative medical guidelines. I take no pleasure in this conclusion, which I reached slowly and reluctantly over my 2 decades as an editor of the New England Journal of Medicine. Marcia Angel, MD. And the faking of medical reality, of course, has become part of the process of marketing and selling medications. Why bother spending all the money on actually making sure it's safe and effective when you can hire companies, and there are companies where this is all they do, that will write up phony research papers extolling the virtues of the product, and then they'll find some academic who, in exchange for some kind of a favor or money, will submit it to the journals as their own, and they tend to get published. And then what does the FDA rely on to decide if a drug is going to be improved? Those faked medical research papers. It is a scam. And I'm not a Christian Scientist, but I just stay away from the medical industry as much as I can here. Apparently, over at Mylan Pharmaceuticals, they have recalled 3 commonly prescribed blood pressure medications over a cancer concern. Apparently, they include what is called N-nitrosodiethylamine, or NDEA, which is a cancer-causing impurity. They're just not being careful. They're too busy making money here. Now, here's a good one. This was reported on CNBC. Talks about this Morgan Gleason, and she's a college student with a rare autoimmune disease. 2 years ago, she found there was a mistake in her medical record. You know, all these records are now centralized and computerized. It said she had 2 children. One of them had died. Gleason's never been pregnant. Now remember, there was that Johns Hopkins study that estimated more than 250,000 people in the United States die every year from medical errors. It's the 3rd leading cause of death, and probably because of the reluctance to say bad things about your fellow doctor, it may be a lot higher than that. So what is the end result? We're spending $3.5 trillion on healthcare every year. We're still uninsured or underinsured, unhappy, and unhealthy. Because the business model is, the more chronically ill we are, the more money the medical industrial complex makes. It's amazing. Alrighty. Apparently, there was this teacher, was teaching at this school, and apparently he has been fired for refusing to use transgendered students' preferred pronouns. And the teacher agreed to use the student's new male name, but tried to avoid using any pronouns when referring to her. He had taught her when she was still a girl. And she went and complained and said the fact that he wouldn't say any pronouns made her feel uncomfortable and excluded. And they fired this guy. apparently there was this other school where it forced all of its students to take part in a Pride Day parade, LGBT agenda. And this mother got very, very upset and confronted the school official saying, this is not what my kid is in school for. He's here to learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. The school retaliated by subjecting this student, a 5-year-old, to repeat detention day after day after day after day as a message to the mother. Now, because of abuses like this, there's a petition that is making the rounds right now. It's addressed to Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar, Department of Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, basically saying we need to uphold the scientific definition of sex. Your DNA determines it, and you're either male or female. And all this other transgender nonsense, it really has to go. Now, here is a story. This is out of the Daily Mail. Hundreds of teachers are struggling with spelling, arithmetic, and the basics of their subjects. This is from school inspectors. And basically saying the teachers are making so many mistakes during lessons, they're leaving the children confused, and they're actually inserting errors into the pupils' work. Because these teachers don't know about education and the subject. They're there to indoctrinate. Yeehaw! We've got a room full of children. We're going to turn them into transgenders and Democratic voters. We'll be right back after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today here, and we're going to slip in some human-caused global warming news here. As you're probably already aware, the southeastern United States got slammed with a major winter storm over the weekend. Over 200,000 without power. Heavy snow and ice pounded the Carolinas and Virginia. Travel is basically halted in a lot of areas. And there's been over 500 accidents. Apparently, they're dealing with black ice, which is some of the worst that you can be dealing with. And it's even snowed in New Jersey. Now, this Arctic freeze-up November snow cover over North America is the most extensive since 1966. And the Weather Channel has declared this last November the coldest in 50 years. Over in Raleigh-Durham, they received as much snow in a single day as the normal entire winter average. That's how intense it is over there. So, now over, as you know, Al Gore and his people, oh, global warming, and they're still out there. But apparently there are some voices coming on out saying it's time to pay attention to what's going on because it's getting serious. And over at NASA's Langley Research Center, Martin Milzak, if I can get that right here, is saying the sun is entering one of the deepest solar minima of the space age. Sunspots have been absent for most of this year, and Earth's upper atmosphere is responding. Data from NASA's TIMID satellite show the thermosphere, which is the uppermost layer of air around our planet, is cooling and shrinking. It's literally decreasing the radius of the atmosphere. And saying things could get a lot worse very quickly. Reminds me of a little clip out of The Day After Tomorrow, where the museum diorama was saying the mammoth was literally frozen mid-step. Now, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is claiming that stopping climate change will end racism. See, we can fix that. If we stop climate change, that'll be the end of racism. However, did this person get elected? Apparently over in London, there's a major protest at City Hall over Sadiq Khan's ultra-low emission zone covering the whole of London that will charge motorists with cars that are just 3 years old £12.50 a day and raise 6 times more than the so-called congestion charge. So Sadiq Khan is still out there saying CO2 is bad, CO2 is bad, we've got to get rid of it, we've got to get rid of it. And there's the music. Okay, time for us to get on out of here. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here, share it with everybody that you know. Get the message on out there to people who don't yet understand. You're being propagandized constantly about everything to trick you out of your money and into obedience, and most importantly, into a coming major war. So please donate to Republic Broadcasting. They need all the help they can get. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.